Dale Matthews, and Mike Jones and I were at yesterday's swearing-in ceremony, the oath of office, for Simon Hare and a couple other Josephine County elected officials. We were both shooting video at the event, and there were things that we saw and things that we didn't see. This show is mostly about things that KDRV, Channel 12, thought they were seeing or hearing or not hearing, which are, what's a charitable way to put it, completely false.
Yeah, fabricated. I'm amazed. You know, every time I see the replay of the video that they put on the 6 o'clock news, or first they posted it linked from their Facebook page, and it was one of their YouTube videos.
Mike, why don't you go ahead and play that so people know what we're talking about? We can play it more than once. You may need to listen, everybody, fairly closely. And by the way, just because I have a logo of Channel 12 over my shoulder doesn't mean I think I work for Channel 12. I don't think that I do. Go ahead and play that, would you, bud?
Okay, I will. It's going to be tough to hear, but anyway, here it is.
Josephine County swearing today, about half a dozen people were urging the public to recall Commissioner Simon Hare.
Hare admits to and apologizes for sending lewd texts to 2 young women in December. NewsWatch 12's Randa Gore joins us with a look at the public's reaction as Hare took the oath of office.
It was a packed room today as a handful of people were sworn in at the Josephine County Courthouse. The crowd applauded each elected official as they approached to take their oath of office. But it was a very different story when Simon Hare's name was called. Yep, that you hear right there, that is a silent protest, a very awkward moment of silence, to say the least, if you were there. A few people in that crowd want to recall Hare, and while no formal recall has been filed, we're currently looking into the process. Others just asking the commissioner to resign on his own.
He has destroyed the trust of people in Josephine County, and the people whose causes he championed, like timber and like other interests, he's not an effective spokesman anymore.
On December 5th, Hare said he sent 2 lewd text messages to 2 young women after he took another woman's phone at a bar. Hare admitted to those texts, claiming he was trying to prank a friend and didn't realize it was the wrong phone. Hare is one of 9 candidates who ran for the Josephine County Commissioner seat back in November. He was reelected, and today he did take his oath of office to serve for his 2nd term.
Okay, and I hope that the audience was able to hear that, but it was kind of shocking because either this gal was in a different world than we were, or she missed the part where each of them, it was silent before each of them came up, and after they took the oath, then there was applause.
You know, we have videos of this. We've got the complete video of each person that took the oath of office, so there's absolutely no doubt that we've got this right. Well, I want to do the rest of the show. I'm sorry that was a little difficult to hear, but if you go to badcounty.com, it's non-commercial. We're not just trying to get you go there to buy something. There's nothing to buy. But if you go and listen to that again, or we'll recount to you now what happened, you'll see there's a real problem with Randa Gore. She seems like a nice person that reports on this story, because this portion is made up.
Yeah, it's gotten wrong, and I don't know if she came there wanting to believe that this is what was going to take place or not, because, I mean, clearly, it's really, to most people that were in the room, this is not what happened, and I think they kind of understand it as well, because the story's been pulled.
But it's still on YouTube.
It's still on YouTube. Yeah, it's still on YouTube, but their site has taken it down, and they had it posted on Facebook, and now it's gone.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, we post things on Facebook. and on YouTube and on Twitter. And, you know, we've got a site where, and this is going to be our new one, our updated one, our augmented one. And when we put things on the air, if we get anything wrong ever, we're going to go to YouTube and pull it down. You don't leave it up there.
Right.
And the whole world can see it.
Yeah, and I think, though, you know, for the most part, people are not subscribing to their YouTube channel to get their video news. They're getting, it's either linked from their website or it's linked from Facebook. And I have a little bit of inside knowledge because I've known people who've worked at these stations, and to be honest, it's not the highest caliber of. In other words, they're paying people minimum wage or shortly above that to do this stuff. So this is, you're getting what you pay for here. And listen, no disrespect to this woman. This is a mistake. At some point, you know, I mean, she may well have already learned her lesson on this one.
Well, what was that lesson? I've got
Yeah.
the transcript right here. Let me tell you again the KDRV Channel 12 version of this event where we were there, and we were there with 2 high-definition cameras, 2 reporters. We know what happened. She wrote, "The crowd applauded each elected official as they approached to take the oath of office." No, the crowd did not do that. But it was a very different story when Simon Hare's name was called. Yep, that you hear right there, that is a silent protest. No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
And
it
underneath,
was,
underneath this video of Simon Hare looking pensive and nobody's applauding for him, as they did exactly for the other people, it says Hare recall. It doesn't say Hare takes oath of office. It says Hare recall. What?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. I just, it's, you know, I'd love to get inside their brain here and figure out whoever all was involved in this story, if it was just Randa or what the deal is, but it's just wrong. And
I'm not the biggest fan of Simon Hare, and when you say they want to get inside her brain, you know, Simon Hare might say, "I want to get in your pants," because that's what he had texted to somebody he didn't even know. So I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around, but she summed it up by saying it was a very awkward moment of silence, to say the least, if you were there. Randa, were you there? Because this didn't happen.
Yeah, you know, I'd say the biggest piece of news that came out of that swearing-in ceremony is
it's a piece of something.
Yes, is that Wally Hick's daughter is adorable, and,
Yes.
and that was the big news. You know, other than that, it was pretty routine, and there was not a whole lot going on.
She's a little girl, and although there was one fellow in town that was telling people this is going to take 4 hours, and I guess he was serious. It seemed to be to the people that said it was over in, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes maximum.
Yeah.
And it was just 3 people taking the oath, and Lindy Baker, the judge that runs this, she always runs it like the place is burning down, and you got to swear people in before you can leave. I mean, a couple of times in the footage that I shot, it was a little jumpy because she's starting to swear them in before they've stopped moving.
Yes, right, exactly. And now I watched some video provided by Kevin G. over in Jackson County of the Jackson County swearing in, and that judge, the fire under him is much cooler. He was moving slow, and I mean, it took him 5 minutes to get up to where he was actually calling the first person forward.
Well,
So-
when you were watching this story, the important thing to me is that the story is about, the entire purpose of the story wasn't many people or 3 people are sworn in. That wasn't the purpose. The purpose and the title of the story was that Hare has been snubbed by the audience. Hare is on the edge of recall. Hare, you know, I don't care for the guy because for a lot of reasons, and as you know, but It's simply not true. And what we need to have is we need to have media that aren't going to come in with some preconceived notion, and they're not hearing applause for him when there's not applause at the beginning for anybody.
Yeah, and neither of the 2 points there that seem to be the themes of the story are real. He isn't on the edge of recall. There may be some people that want to recall him, but they're not. I don't see that as a booming imminent thing.
No, it's definitely not imminent, which is another story, because our clerk, the state says the clerk can make up his mind. The clerk says, oh, no, they don't say that. Well, they do say that it's up to the clerk. This is Simon Hare's second term. So in some places, according to the state, in every place in the state, in our state, Oregon, the clerk gets to make up his mind about what he wants to do, because it's the second term. What, you get a free 6 months and you cannot be recalled during that 6 months? What if it's your fifth term, if such a thing is possible? No, you get a free time at the end where you can't. No, wait a minute. What? So the state says, no, it's entirely up to Art Harvey. There's Art Harvey again. Oh, Art says, no, you can't possibly do it. I went down on the last few days, work days, of Simon Hare's term. And I went in and I shot tape, and I said, Art Harvey, I'm here to put in recall papers against a sitting commissioner. Oh, which one? Simon Hare. Well, you can't do that. Now, why? He's in office. Because there isn't enough time to gather the signatures. Well, I know there's not enough time in 2 days or something. I said, well, what about into his next term? No, the state says I can't. Well, I know that's not what the state says. This is the second time we've been through this, and he said we have it on tape from before when the state's saying no, it's up to him, and he says no, it's not up to me. Well, this isn't a dispute about who has the jurisdiction. This is the state saying absolutely, we told him that it's up to him, and him saying, oh no, I can't do anything because it's not up to me. Buddy, it is up to you. Stop telling us it's not.
Of course, it's a moot point anyway, because it's not happening. No one is launching a Simon Hare recall campaign. Right. It just is not happening yet. And as soon as it manifests itself, you'll hear it here first.
Well, so they were also indicating there was a group there, and then they interviewed Mark Seligman, and somehow some people got the feeling that Mark Seligman was with this group, and he's not with the group. He was a person that spoke, and he said, gee, I don't think that Simon Hare should be in office. Right, but this story ended up going out. KDRV's reputation is on the line. There's nobody in the 15 years that I've been here, I'm a newcomer, who ever criticizes other media except for us. And I'm telling you that in any other market, Randa Gore, I like her, she seems like a nice person, would be fired for coming back with a story. She has the videotape. She could look at the tape and say, I'm wrong about that. Gosh, nobody's getting any applause as they're walking up. And somehow it makes it through the system at KDRV, and Simon Hare is being snubbed. The entire purpose of the story is, here's the silent treatment. That's BS. There wasn't any silent treatment. That's completely fabricated, and whether we like the guy or not, we're going to stand up for the truth.
Right. No, that clearly didn't happen. I really have to wonder about the origin of this whole thing. It may well be that as these other stories having to do with Simon Hare were developing throughout December, and there was a little protest with 5 or 6 people down at the courthouse the other day, it may well have started a narrative in their mind that this is the direction it's going, and they wanted to produce another story that was like that.
Well, we have one newspaper editor, we've talked about this before, who said, I can't report on that story, Dale. And I said, well, why? It's a true story. Well, because my advertisers wouldn't like it. That's affecting the news. We've got the Daily Courier, who is sitting in the same meetings as we are and not seeing any of these things and covering up stories. And now we have a reporter from Channel 12 who comes in and reports straight-faced, here's what happened. It's the purpose of the story, and it's complete fabrication.
Okay, and I'll tell you, And it may well be that this is totally and completely contrived by Randa Gore. However, I worked for a very high-profile, I was an audio producer for a very high-profile radio talk show host. It came down from the executive producer that they wanted this particular audio. We need to have so-and-so saying this because he had heard through the grapevine that this person had said this. And I wanted really badly to deliver because I was new in this position. So I worked very, very hard to try and come up with it, but in the end, I couldn't come up with the exact quote that they were looking for. I mean, they wanted me to tell them, yeah, this is it. But I would have ended up looking like an idiot. But I was old enough to understand that, hey, I can't say that this is it. You know, and it may well be that somebody from up above her gave her a go get this story about Simon Hare. Simon Hare, oh, be on the lookout for this happening this morning or whatever. You know, so I don't want to judge her too quickly, but it was wrong, and the story never should have been filed. Case closed.
They have an editor, I would assume. And when I said to you, hey, they're saying this, and you're saying, no, that's not what happened. So what do we do? What would you do? What would any normal human being do? You would go back and you would look at your videotape.
That's right. Was she rolling from the time? I mean, she got seated behind us and was there certainly by the time the judge came out and started doing stuff. So I suspect that perhaps she didn't push the record button on her. Boy, who does that? And if she didn't have that beginning, you know, perhaps there was some misinterpretations. You know, I don't know. Well, listen, I'm trying to imagine how this materialized.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine it too. There's 3 different people that are coming up. The whole thing is no more than a few minutes, and 3 different people are coming up, and you would look at the others and say, oh, look, everybody's applauding for Dave Daniel. Everyone's applauding for Wally Hicks. They applauded for each of the 3 after they took the oath of office. But no one got applause ahead of time. You look at the videotape and say, oh, I'm right about this. You could say, well, perhaps she was confused from when they walked up to when they sat down. She's showing the videotape. That's not a confusion. You would see the back of his head if it was afterwards. So you're seeing him walk up. Oh, look, it's so silent. No. This was not a misunderstanding on our part. This was not a misunderstanding on their part. That's just not humanly possible. It's on tape. You have a responsibility as a reporter, as news media, to tell the truth about things whether you like the guy or not. And I think that we've given them a chance to, because we watched their news tonight. They did not come on after pulling it off their site and issue any kind of apologies. In that way, they're very much like the Daily Courier, and don't expect one from them. And there should be they should do a little story about themselves, a little story. You don't need to, you know, set her on fire or anything. It's just that, as I said, in other markets, she would be fired.
Well, and you know what? I see totally where you're coming from. You're coming down on this a little harder than I would personally, but I get it. I get it. This was they filed a false report, and this wasn't the morning news. This was the evening news. This is where your hard stories come in, and that's where the editor is actually on duty. You know, whereas you know, in the morning, well, I don't know the structure of that station.
At 11 o'clock, they're going to have less people working there. They didn't even play her back. All they did was kind of talk over some of the footage that she shot. Here's the point. If especially what we do at BadCounty.com, what you and I do, Mike Jones, Dale Matthews, if we're going to hold commissioners to account for times when we've caught them red-handed. There's absolutely no doubt they've lied to us. We put the two videotapes up side by side. Look, they're lying to you. If we're going to do that with officials, we need to do that with the media. We need to do that with ourselves if we make a mistake. And our credibility and the credibility of every citizen out there is called into question when a completely, not a misunderstanding, a completely fabricated false story goes out, and it's in the hands of the media.
Yeah, and I suspect that one of the reasons why they're not saying anything about it is because the only people that can refute the legitimacy are the people that were in the room there. And I suspect that maybe one or two of them made a phone call to them and said, hey, you got this wrong. And I suspect that's the reason that they pulled it.
To put a sum on it, just as happens at the meetings of the county commissioners, where we are often the only people in the room besides the commissioners and the camera. In this case, maybe they think they can, well, we can get away with this because this was no accident. This was not an accident. Not afterwards when you've got a chance to look at the record. And so when the commissioners have a chance to look at the record afterwards and then continue lying about it, they forget that we have video. And when this TV station comes there and fabricates a story, whether we like the guy or not, it's a fabrication, and we're there and we have the proof, we're going to tell you what really happened.